AI will not take your job, but it will take the part of your job that justifies your paycheck. That sentence makes people uncomfortable because it attacks a quiet assumption most of us carry, that if we are competent, hardworking, and experienced, we are safe. For decades, that assumption held. AI breaks it. Not loudly, not dramatically, but systematically. Here's what no one wants to say out loud. The disruption isn't coming. It arrived. While you were debating whether AI was overhyped, it was already eating the foundation beneath your feet. This is not about robots replacing humans. It is about economics changing faster than human identity can adapt. The numbers that should terrify you. Let me give you the data that keeps economists up at night. In 2025 alone, 78,000 tech workers lost their jobs directly to AI. That's not speculation. That's from Challenger, Gray and Amp. Christmas, the firm that tracks layoffs the way a coroner tracks cause of death. The total layoff count for 2025, 1.17 million. The highest since the pandemic tore through the economy in 2020. But here's what makes it different this time. Companies aren't blaming economic uncertainty or market conditions. They're saying the quiet part out loud. Duolingo's CEO announced the company would gradually stop using contractors to do work AI can handle. Klarna replaced 700 customer service agents with an AI chatbot, and the CEO bragged about it. Microsoft's Satya Nadella revealed that 30% of the company's code is now AI written. Simultaneously, over 40% of their recent layoffs targeted software engineers. Read that again. The people who write code are being replaced by the code they trained AI to write. Amazon cut 15,000 positions. IBM eliminated 8,000 HR roles and handed them to AI agents. Meta announced plans to automate 90% of its risk assessment work, jobs currently done by humans who evaluate whether the company's own technology is safe. The World Economic Forum's 2025 Future of Jobs report says 41% of employers worldwide intend to reduce their workforce in the next 5 years due to AI and automation. Not might consider, intend. This is not a possibility. This is a plan. The entry-level extinction event. If you want to see where AI hits hardest, look at who can't get hired at all. The unemployment rate for college graduates aged 20-24 has spiked to 9.5%, nearly double the general adult rate. For recent grads aged 22 to 27, it's 5.8%, the highest since 2021. These aren't layoff victims. These are people who followed the playbook, did everything right, earned their degrees, and walked into a job market that no longer wants them. Here's the brutal math. Big Tech reduced new graduate hiring by 25% in 2024. Entry-level job postings across all industries have fallen to their lowest share in 5 years, 45% below the 5-year average. In the tech sector alone, hiring announcements dropped 58% year over year. A report from Cengage Group found that only 30% of 2025 graduates secured a full-time job in their field. 30%. The rest are either unemployed, underemployed, or working jobs that don't require the degree they spent 4 years and 6 figures to earn. And here's the part that should make every parent's blood run cold. 35% of positions labeled entry-level now require multiple years of prior experience. In software and IT, that number exceeds 60%. The entry level no longer exists. It's been automated, consolidated, or relabeled as something that demands skills you can only get from a job you can't get hired for. The traditional deal of entry-level work, trade grunt work for mentorship, learn while you earn, is dead. AI agents now perform the grunt work. The learning curve itself has been automated. Young professionals are stranded between AI tools and senior workers with nowhere to climb. Goldman Sachs put it plainly. Unemployment among 20 to 30-year-olds in tech-exposed occupations has risen by almost 3 percentage points since the start of 2025. That's not a blip. That's a generation watching their expected careers dissolve before they begin. How disruption actually happens. Most people imagine job loss as an event. A pink slip, a box of personal items, a sad walk to the parking lot. That's not how AI displacement works. Jobs rarely disappear first. Hiring does. Companies stop backfilling roles. Entry-level openings quietly vanish. Teams are asked to do more with fewer people. Managers start saying things like, "We'll revisit headcount next quarter." The work still exists, but the number of humans required to do it shrinks. No drama, no villain, just math. The International Labor Organization did something important when studying AI's impact on work. Instead of focusing on job titles, it broke work down into tasks. That distinction matters because job titles lie. Tasks tell the truth. What they found was clear. The highest automation potential clusters in clerical and administrative work. Jobs built around scheduling, documentation, routine communication, data handling, and standardized reporting. These roles are essential to organizations, but they are composed of exactly the kind of cognitive tasks generative AI performs well. Reading, summarizing, drafting, sorting, responding. AI does not eliminate these jobs overnight. It removes large portions of the effort required to justify them. Once that happens, organizations don't panic. They reorganize. One person with AI replaces two without it. Then three. Then a department quietly restructures for efficiency. In human resources, 85% of recruitment screening and 90% of benefits administration functions are expected to be automated between 2025 and 2027. Legal support roles face an 80% automation risk by 2026. Loan processing automation is projected to jump from 35% today to 80% by 2030. This is erosion, not explosion. The role still exists, but the leverage shifts away from the human performing it. The mismatch. No one wants to discuss. The World Economic Forum estimates that by 2030, 92 million jobs will be displaced by AI and automation, while 170 million new roles emerge. On paper, that sounds balanced. Net positive, even. In reality, it hides the most dangerous word in the future of work: mismatch. The people losing jobs are not automatically qualified for the jobs being created. Here's the stat that should haunt every workforce development program in the country. 77% of new AI-related positions require a master's degree. 18% require a doctorate. Meanwhile, the jobs being eliminated, customer service, data entry, administrative support, typically required nothing beyond a high school diploma and basic computer literacy. We're not just shuffling workers between roles. We're eliminating the bottom rungs of the ladder while building new rungs that most people can't reach. And the geographic distribution makes it worse. The new jobs cluster in tech hubs. The eliminated jobs were everywhere. A customer service rep in Kentucky doesn't become an AI ethics officer in San Francisco. They become unemployed in Kentucky. This is where many people misunderstand the threat. They imagine job loss as something that happens to other people, to the unskilled, the unlucky, the unmotivated. What actually happens is that entire categories of work become economically unjustifiable, regardless of how well the people doing them perform. Your competence doesn't protect you. The economics of your role does. The quiet collapse of the talent pipeline. Here's what executives celebrating efficiency gains never discuss. They're creating a future talent shortage while solving a present cost problem. Entry-level roles historically existed to train people through repetition. You learned by doing the routine tasks. You made mistakes on low-stakes work. You built judgment through experience. AI now does those tasks instantly. When the routine disappears, so does the apprenticeship. Fewer beginners are hired. Fewer people grow into senior roles. Organizations optimize for short-term efficiency and create long-term talent vacuums. One analysis called it experience inflation, the upward creep of requirements for roles that are nominally entry-level. Companies want the skills of mid-level employees at entry-level prices. They want candidates who arrive job-ready without providing the jobs that make people ready. The irony is savage. The same companies complaining about skills gaps are eliminating the positions where skills get developed. And here's what happens next. In 5 years, these organizations will face a crisis of their own making, a shortage of experienced talent because they never hired the inexperienced talent who would have become experienced. They'll blame the education system. They'll blame kids these days. They'll never admit they broke the pipeline themselves. How? The leverage shift. When people ask whether AI will take their job, they are asking the wrong question. The real question is whether AI will take the tasks that justify their role. If most of your value comes from predictable, repeatable, text-based or coordination-heavy work, your role will not vanish, but it will shrink, consolidate, or be absorbed into another function. Not because you failed, because the economics changed. This is why advice like "just learn to code" misses the point entirely. Coding is valuable, but coding is not the main advantage of the AI era. Leverage is. Leverage is the ability to produce more impact with the same or less human effort. AI is a leverage multiplier. The people who benefit are not those who merely use AI, but those who restructure their work around it. Microsoft's CEO didn't announce that coders would be replaced. He announced that 30% of Microsoft's code is AI written, meaning the remaining coders are dramatically more productive. The question isn't whether you can code. It's whether you can code at a rate that justifies paying you instead of the AI that already does 30% of the work. The same logic applies everywhere. Can you research at a rate that justifies paying you when AI summarizes 10 articles in seconds? Can you draft at a rate that justifies paying you when AI produces a first version in minutes? Can you analyze at a rate that justifies paying you when AI processes data faster than you can read it? If your answer involves doing the same things at the same pace with the same methods, you're already behind. HAT, a new mental model for work. To understand what to do next, you need a new way of thinking about your role. Think of work as layered. At the bottom is production, executing tasks. Above that is process, running systems and workflows. Above that is judgment, making decisions under uncertainty. At the top is influence, leading humans, earning trust, shaping direction. AI consumes the bottom layer first. It pressures the second. It supports the third. It cannot replace the fourth. The danger is staying anchored to production while the value migrates upward. Here's what that means in practice. If you describe your job primarily in terms of what you produce, reports written, emails sent, data processed, tasks completed, you are in the danger zone. AI already does those things. It does them faster. It does them cheaper. And it's getting better every week. If you describe your job in terms of outcomes you enable, systems you optimize, decisions you make, or people you lead, you have runway. Not immunity. Runway. The transition requires moving deliberately from person who does the work to person who runs the system to person who makes the call. HAR, the 4 steps that actually matter. Preparation does not mean becoming an AI engineer or abandoning your profession. It means repositioning yourself inside this new structure. Step 1. AI must save you time every week. If it doesn't, you are already behind. This does not require advanced tools. It requires intent. AI should handle first drafts, summaries, research synthesis, meeting notes, follow-up emails, planning outlines, anything repetitive and cognitive. If you are still doing those things manually out of habit, pride, or "that's how we've always done it," you are subsidizing your own obsolescence. Time saved is not the goal. Time redeployed is. The hours AI gives back should go toward the layers above production, improving processes, exercising judgment, building influence. If you save 3 hours a week and spend them scrolling LinkedIn, you've gained nothing. Step 2. Own a workflow, not tasks. Every job has recurring processes, reports that get created, meetings that generate actions, pipelines that get reviewed, customers that get handled. Preparation means identifying one full workflow and redesigning it around AI, from input to output. When you own the workflow, you stop being interchangeable. You move from person who does the work to person who runs the system. That transition aligns perfectly with what employers increasingly demand: process ownership and coordination. The OECD's analysis of job postings shows that in occupations exposed to AI, demand shifts away from routine execution and toward higher-level skills: judgment, coordination, business process ownership, and management. Companies still want humans, but they want fewer of them, operating at a higher cognitive altitude. Own the altitude. Step 3. Develop judgment that matters. AI produces options. Humans choose. This is where many people freeze. They assume AI threatens judgment. In reality, it exposes weak judgment. When everyone can generate 10 decent options instantly, the differentiator becomes the ability to evaluate trade-offs, anticipate consequences, and make decisions people trust. Judgment grows when you force yourself to answer harder questions. What matters here? What is risky? What would fail silently? What looks good but won't work in practice? What's the second-order effect? What are we not seeing? AI can assist with analysis. It cannot own the outcome. Organizations will increasingly reward the people who do. Step 4. Build influence deliberately. This is the layer most resistant to automation and the most neglected in preparation. AI cannot build trust. It cannot persuade a skeptical stakeholder. It cannot navigate organizational politics, align incentives, or carry moral responsibility. As AI increases technical efficiency, human influence becomes more valuable, not less. Preparation means deliberately developing the ability to explain decisions, lead change, and bring others along. Not as soft skills, that term is a dismissive lie, but as survival skills. The research is clear. The skills most demanded in 2025 hiring are collaboration, customer service, and communication. People-centered skills dominate job postings. While AI skills command salary premiums, human skills determine who actually gets hired and who keeps their job when cuts come. The emotional reality. This is where many professionals get stuck. They spent years mastering execution. They were rewarded for being reliable producers. They built their identity around being the person who gets things done. Now the system tells them that production is no longer enough. That feels unfair. It feels like the rules changed mid-game. They did. The people who struggle most in the AI transition are not the least capable. They are the most invested in the old definition of value. If your self-worth is tied to how much you produce, AI will feel like an existential threat. If your self-worth is tied to the outcomes you enable, AI becomes a tool that makes you more valuable. The psychological adjustment is harder than the technical one. Learning to use AI tools takes weeks. Redefining your professional identity takes longer. And it requires admitting that something you built your career on may no longer be enough. Hashtag the corporate doublespeak. Pay attention to how executives talk about this. When Klarna's CEO announced his company would be OpenAI's favorite guinea pig, he framed it as innovation. When Duolingo's CEO declared the company would become AI first and stop using contractors for work AI can handle, he called it scaling. When Shopify's CEO told employees they must prove they cannot get what they want done using AI before requesting headcount, he called it efficiency. Not one of them called it what it is, choosing machines over humans to boost profit margins. And here's the twist. Some of them are already walking it back. Klarna, after replacing 700 customer service agents with AI, discovered something interesting. As cost unfortunately seems to have been a too predominant evaluation factor, what you end up having is lower quality, the CEO admitted. The company announced it would start hiring humans again to ensure customers could speak to a live representative. Translation: the AI couldn't actually do the job. Duolingo faced a tsunami of backlash on social media. The top comments on virtually every TikTok post became attacks on the AI-first strategy. "Mama, may I have real people running the company?" users wrote. The CEO had to walk back his statements, clarifying that he didn't see AI replacing what our employees do. But here's what they didn't walk back: the contractor layoffs, the hiring freezes, the fundamental shift in how they value human work. The PR changed. The strategy didn't. This is the pattern. Companies announce AI transformation with investor-friendly language. The backlash comes. They soften the messaging. But the headcount reductions continue quietly. The restructuring proceeds. The humans who lost their jobs don't get unlaid off because the CEO posted something conciliatory on LinkedIn. Watch what they do, not what they say. The survivor's dilemma. Here's something the efficiency cheerleaders never mention. The people who keep their jobs after AI-driven cuts aren't thriving. They're drowning. Research shows that 74% of employees who survive layoffs report a decline in their own productivity. 77% witness an increase in operational errors. Psychologists call it layoff survivor syndrome, a collapse of performance fueled by anxiety, overwork, and the erosion of institutional trust. When companies cut costs by eliminating human capacity, they don't get a leaner organization. They get an anxious, risk-averse, error-prone one. The productivity equation turns negative. The marginal productivity of retained workers plummets faster than payroll costs decline. The survivors are doing the work of the people who were let go, plus their own work, plus the emotional labor of wondering if they're next. And the AI implementations? A staggering 59% of organizations are taking a technology-first approach, bolting AI onto existing processes rather than redesigning work around human-AI collaboration. Only 6% see payback in under a year. They're not getting the efficiency gains they expected, but they're definitely getting the morale destruction. This is the reality behind the press releases. Behind every workforce optimization announcement is a surviving team stretched too thin, a culture eroded by fear, and an AI system that mostly helps executives justify decisions they already wanted to make. The inequality accelerator AI displacement doesn't hit everyone equally. It hits downward. Women in the U.S. workforce face disproportionate exposure. 79% of employed women work in jobs at high risk of automation, compared to 58% of men. In high-income countries, 9.6% of jobs most vulnerable to AI-driven automation are held by women, nearly 3 times the proportion for male-held jobs. The racial disparities are worse. By late 2025, the unemployment rate for black women remained at 7.1%, more than double the 3.4% rate for white women. A perfect storm of factors: High exposure to private sector automation combined with federal job cuts that eliminated 300,000 positions in a sector where black women have historically found stability. At recent NAACP job fairs, 80% of applicants held bachelor's degrees, yet they were lining up for same-day interviews for low-wage roles. We're watching the hollowing out of the black middle class in real time. This isn't a skills gap problem. It's a systemic failure. The people losing jobs had skills. They had degrees. They had experience. What they didn't have was leverage in an economy that suddenly decided their work could be automated. The $12 trillion global economic opportunity of gender equity that McKinsey projected? It's only accessible if we actively retain women in the workforce. AI, as currently being deployed, is doing the opposite. Hashtag, the cost of doing nothing. Doing nothing is the most dangerous choice. In an AI-shaped economy, stability does not come from standing still. It comes from moving deliberately. People who do nothing don't suddenly get fired. They get slowly sidelined. Their role becomes smaller. Their growth stalls. Their leverage disappears. They become the person who handles legacy work while the exciting projects go to people who adapted. And when the next round of cuts comes, and it will, they're the ones whose work can be done by AI and one remaining human. Average performance becomes cheap. AI raises the floor. Anyone can produce acceptable work with the right prompts. What remains scarce is discernment, accountability, and leadership. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The companies announcing AI-driven layoffs aren't struggling. Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, IBM, these aren't desperate organizations. They're thriving. They're cutting people because they can, not because they must. And if they can, they will. Because boards demand efficiency. Because investors reward optimization. Because AI makes it possible to do more with less, and less means you. The timeline is now. The best time to prepare for AI was 2 years ago. The second best time is while you are still employed. You don't wait until your role is threatened to adapt. You adapt while you still have room to experiment, learn, and reposition. While you still have a paycheck funding your transition. While you still have access to organizational resources, mentorship, and time. The people who thrive over the next 5 to 10 years will not fight gravity. They will use it. They will let AI handle the routine and move deliberately toward judgment, ownership, and influence. The World Economic Forum says 120 million workers need retraining within 3 years. Don't be last in line. Your identity cannot be tied to the tasks you perform. It must be tied to the outcomes you enable. When AI takes over part of your work, it is not stealing your value. It is giving you an opportunity to move where value concentrates next. The mistake is clinging to the comfort of being busy instead of pursuing the discomfort of being impactful. The end of unleveraged work. AI will not replace your intelligence, but it will replace your excuses for not evolving. The future of work is not about being smarter than AI. It's not about outworking the machine. It's about moving to the layers where human judgment, ownership, and influence still matter, and where they'll matter even more as everything below them gets automated. This is not the end of work. This is the end of unleveraged work. The transition is not coming. It's already here. The data is clear. The companies are explicit. The layoffs are documented. The only question left is whether you'll adapt before the economics force you to, or after, when your options are gone and your leverage has disappeared. The people who answer that question honestly and act on it now will build careers that survive what's coming. Everyone else will wonder what happened. And by then, it will be too late to catch up.